full day of the retreat, and it's an opportunity to continue our exploration of practice and cultivation. I started yesterday returning to the theme of the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, and that, of course, is always a rich theme for establishing our practice on. And we can't really go wrong if we keep returning to the Four Foundations of Mindfulness and try to clarify and establish our contemplation, reflection, investigation based on those themes, and of course, as I mentioned yesterday, the Buddha himself had a lot to say about the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. It was something that he considered essential to his path and his teaching. And there's a beautiful image, idiom that he uses in terms of saying that referring to the Four Foundations of Mindfulness as the proper domain, proper, as they say, one's ancestral ground that one returns to and establishes oneself in, one's proper range, proper domain, proper territory to establish oneself in as a spiritual practitioner. And he gives the image, a simile of a quail that got caught by a hawk, and hawk swept down, picked up this quail, and as it's being flown off in the talons of this hawk, then the quail, this kind of little quail, is sort of lamenting, and if only I'd stuck to my proper range, proper domain, stayed in my ancestral territory, this hawk would never have got the better of me, and just my bad luck, just my bad fortune. And of course the hawk overheard him grumbling and complaining, and then the hawk asks him, "Oh, what is your proper range, proper domain?" And he said, "Well, it's a newly plowed field." And so then the hawk, as in the sutta, there's this very understated, neither boasting of his say prowess or his puffing himself up. He said, "Well, I'll take you there, and but I'll still come back and get you." and so then he dropped him off in this field, and then the little quail got up on a clod of earth and kind of said, "Okay, now I'm in my proper domain, proper range. See if you can get me now." And then the hawk, again, neither boasting nor just folded his wings and come swooping down. And the quail, just as the hawk was getting close, and he ducked underneath the clod of earth and escaped. And the hawk, miscalculated and slammed into the clod of earth. Didn't do so well. So that this little quail was a match for the hawk. So the Buddha similarly say when the quail, keeping his proper domain, being in his ancestral territory, his ancestral ground, he is safe and protected. In the same way, you should also keep to your proper range, proper domain, keep to your ancestral territory. And what is your proper domain? That is the four foundations of mindfulness. And so that drawing attention to and emphasizing the importance of that. These four foundations of mindfulness as our proper domain, our ancestral territory, that gives us a solid foundation for living in the world and engaging with the world, engaging with our life. And it's not just a matter of say, formal meditation, but this is what we bring into. I mean, we can maybe refine it a bit more in our formal meditations, but this is how we establish our attention, awareness, and investigation moment to moment in whatever we're doing. And that the four foundations of mindfulness, the body, feelings, mind, and the mental phenomena, objects of mind. So these are the four areas, and Ajahn Jeff does a good translation of those foundations of mindfulness. There's a Satipatthana, translating it as frames of reference, and I think that's very helpful perspective in that sense of we view our experience through the lens of body, feeling, mind, and objects of mind. It's taking it as a frame of reference so that we have a basis for viewing our experience and establishing a mindful alertness to what we're doing, what we're experiencing. And in the discourse that the Buddha gives, the way that he the language that he uses in speaking of these four foundations of mindfulness, or these four frames of reference, there is contemplating the body as a body. It is, or as say Ajahn Jeff translates it, the body in and of itself. And earlier translations were like body in the body, feelings in feelings, mind in mind, mind objects in mind objects, and of course that led to a whole lot of proliferation of what was the seeing body in the body, so seeing little bodies in bodies. And I mean, it just gets really complicated, and you don't have to give much to the human mind to start to proliferate and make a story around things. And so that the language helps, so that Bhikkhu Bodhi translates body as a body. So it's like taking the bodily experience and not contemplating it in terms of, do I like it, do I dislike it, is it good, is it bad, is it, is it me, is it not me? It's just body as a body, or as a body in and of itself. This is the experience. And as much as one says to not complicate things, we are pretty adept at complicating that which needs not be complicated, or proliferating on that which needs no proliferation. So that just reminding ourselves, body is a body, and in the say in the discourse that the Buddha gives, of course he breaks it up into, say, in terms of body, then there's different ways of relating or different frames of reference. So the very first, in terms of the body, then breath. It's the very first element of the contemplation of the body, that we're breathing, and that we are breathing, of course, is an indication that we're alive. So that's a good start. But then also as say the breath is a fundamental meditation object, and using the breath as an anchor of establishing awareness and mindfulness, and refining our mindfulness. Using the breath as a basis. In this, say, in the Satipatthana, then the Buddha only gives the first 4 steps of mindfulness of breathing, and that's what's related to the body in terms of knowing the long breath coming in and out, knowing the short breath coming in and out, experiencing the whole body as one breathes in, breathes out, and calming the bodily formations as one's breathing in and out. That's And then, say, in Anapanasati, the mindfulness of breathing discourse, then the Buddha expands it to encompass the whole. It expands mindfulness of breathing to encompass the whole four foundations of mindfulness. And we'll see. Ajahn Yaniko gave a brief synopsis the first day, and we'll see, we might circle back to that at some point. But in this, the discourse on the four foundations of mindfulness, and that's the very first thing that the Buddha puts in place as a contemplation of the body, is the breath. And there's the contemplation of or being mindful of the postures, walking, sitting, standing, lying down. A more, say, refined awareness or clear comprehension of different activities that we're engaged in. As the third one. So as going forward, going backwards, rising, sitting, eating, talking, and through the whole range of our experience, through urinating and defecating. I mean, it's just sort of everything can be an object of awareness, of a mindfulness. The fourth aspect of the mindfulness of the body is the asubha practices, the contemplation of 32 parts of the body as a investigation of the unattractive nature of the body. Fifth one is about elements, the earth element, water element, fire element, air element, basic elements in nature. So contemplating the body, say, as with that frame of reference of it just being an element of nature. And then the last aspect of the body is looking at it through the perspective of the death and the different stages of decay of the human body, and that it's very helpful to be encompassing that in the it's like when we ended the morning meditation chanting, the closing chant this morning was the 5 contemplations that the Buddha encourages us to bring up over and over again, at least on a daily basis. I'm of the nature to age, I'm of the nature to sicken, I'm of the nature to die. I have not gone beyond dying. And so that being able to make that very conscious as a contemplation of the nature of the body. And that's it's the body in and of itself, without getting into the personal projections or personal preferences. Part of its fundamental nature is death and dissolution. It's not a big secret. And but it's something that, as human beings, we tend to try to avoid or try to gloss over. So making a foundation of mindfulness. And the next foundation, or the second foundation of mindfulness, is the contemplation of feelings. And feeling in this sense, Vedana, is the feeling tone. Basically, painful, pleasant, neutral. That's a feel. Every mental moment that we experience, every conscious moment that we experience has an associated feeling to it, and to just be aware of that feeling, because it has implications. If we're not aware, then feeling is so fundamental to our experience, and pervasive. Every conscious moment, or even if it's unconscious to a certain degree, there is a feeling tone that is there, and it affects us. And without being mindful, then it's easy to be drawn into reactivity. And we tend to chase after the pleasant. We tend to run away from the unpleasant. And we tend to get either confused or bored by the neutral. And it has an implication. I mean, we react to our experience in different ways. The third foundation of mindfulness is the mindfulness of the mind. And in this sense, it's like the content of the mind, or the mood of the mind, maybe. Whether it's tinged with, associated with greed or non-greed, aversion or non-aversion, delusion, non-delusion. Whether it's constricted or it's expanded, whether it is it can be whether it's developed, undeveloped. This is whether it's surmountable, insurmountable. These are all moods of the mind, and to be able to tune into that and recognize, okay, this is the mood of the mind, because our experience is, again, we live in a conditioned realm, and the conditioning process and how we interpret things is dependent on those feeling tone and mood of the mind. And without being mindful of that, without being aware of that, then we run on all sorts of assumptions, agendas, and get entangled in the world, and create suffering and confusion for ourselves and for others. So that just being able to see, this is what the mind is doing. This is the fundamental mood of the mind. And the last foundation of mindfulness is the foundations of the in Pali Dhamma, and these are objects of mind, mental phenomena. So so it's more like the content of the mind, and the first one being the five hindrances, and it's both in terms of in terms of the hindrances, but it has a negative impact on the mind. And then there's these hindrances of sense desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness, worry, and then skeptical doubt. Those are, it has a negative impact on the mind. It's important to be mindful of that. It's important to recognize, this is a hindrance. This is an obstruction. Because it can be worked with. As long as it's, one assumes, this is what reality is, and one keeps fulfilling that reality through that lens, so that making it a clear basis of recognition. Okay, so hindrances, then the five aggregates of being. So that's in terms of content. These are as objects of mind, and the five aggregates of being are what we build our perception of self, our identification of I am, this is me, this is mine. It's all built on the five aggregates of being. Form, physical form, this is my body, this is who I am. Feeling, perception, mental formations, consciousness. And this is what we establish a sense of identity, a sense of self around. And it's not that these don't exist. This is, and it's not. And the Buddha is giving a somewhat arbitrary categorization. It's simple enough that one can bring it to mind quite easily, and it's around the sense of function, in the sense of this is physical body, feeling, perception, memory, mental formations are the the aggregate that is to do with volition. So thought, emotion are all concerned with the aggregate of mental formations and sankhara and consciousness itself, just that fundamental knowing of whatever experience there is, tying it all together. And making it that as an object of mindfulness. So these are maybe a bit. There's a fundamental mindfulness, but there is a certain element of investigation that's taking place, and that is embedded in the sutta, in the discourse, and that. The word that's used, anupassana, which is It's like, yes, Pasanno is like to see. So that does, seeing clearly, seeing things a bit thoroughly, so just seeing things through that light. The next is there's 5 elements of the aspects of Dhammanupassana, contemplation of the mind objects, and 6 sense bases. Eye, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind. And I mentioned, I think in the first talk that I gave, I just said, this is what the Buddha calls the world. What we assume to be the world is constructed through the experience that we have of the senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mind objects, mental objects. That's how we construct the world that we live in. So just being able to recognize, looking at things through the lens of our senses, as opposed to assuming a reality that may or may not be there. The next, say, category as a frame of reference, or lens as a frame of reference, is the 7 factors of awakening. So this is looking at it through a very constructive, very positive way of viewing experience. So how do we, turning attention to the 7 factors of awakening: mindfulness, investigation of reality, investigation of truth, effort, energy, joy, tranquility, collectedness of mind, and equanimity. Those are the very positive and transformative ways of viewing experience. And the last category in terms of mind objects is looking through the lens of the Four Noble Truths, seeing things from that perspective of these Four Noble Truths. And the Four Noble Truths, of course, as it in terms of, say, Ajahn Pasanno talked last night about right view, and one of the basis of right view that the Buddha gives, which the Buddha says is, say, a transcendent basis of right view, is viewing our experience through the lens of the Four Noble Truths. Looking at our experience through the lens of dukkha, or unsatisfactoriness, and cause of that unsatisfactoriness, the cessation of that unsatisfactoriness, path leading to the cessation of unsatisfactoriness. And it's a good question to say, well, why would that be transcendent? Because everybody's heard of the Four Noble Truths, But when we view our experience through the lens of the Four Noble Truths, we give ourselves the opportunity to step out of the personalizing, the personality, which tends to be our default option. It's just it's just the reality of our human existence that we keep basing our interpretation of our experience of either self or world through the lens of personality, identification with me. And when we look at things through the lens of the Four Noble Truths, we give ourselves the opportunity to step out of personality, that identification with me, which might be perceived of as really scary. What will happen to the world if I'm not there to reaffirm it? The world will be fine. It'll actually be a lot better off. Where we tend to complicate ourselves and complicate the world around us by our incessant self-referential kind of habits of existence. So, the Four Noble Truths gives us an opportunity to experience things from a transcendent perspective. So these four foundations of mindfulness are really, it's a very fundamental aspect of the Buddhist teachings. It's an incredible tool for giving ourselves the opportunity to experience the transcendent. It's not just a bit of a technique that helps you to feel a bit better about the world or yourself. This is an opportunity to free the heart from the entanglement of the world. And when I say the world, that also means self, the entanglement of the as the Buddha says, the I-making, the mind-making, the underlying tendencies to conceit and to self-obsession. So that these Four Noble Truths, these four foundations of mindfulness are really fundamental. And just as an overview of the discourse, but also I think as as an overview of the discourse, each of the different aspects of these four foundations of mindfulness, the Buddha, there's a refrain that comes up over and over again. In each case, I would say each of the 6 aspects of the body, of feeling, of mind, of the 5 different aspects of the foundation of mind objects, and it's an encouragement to be viewing or looking at things from a particular angle. It's not just a matter of being mindful and being having, say, one-pointed attention on that object and just holding on to that. It's holding it in a way that helps the mind, allows the mind to experience the goal of these four foundations of mindfulness, which I talked about yesterday, purification of being, for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, the elimination of pain and grief, the attaining of the true way, realization of nibbana. That's like the goal can be experienced through this refrain, and the Buddha said, like in each of the, just want to say, I'll just take the breath, and so attending to the to the body as a body, the body in and of itself, say in this way, and when say contemplates it, experiences it, mindful of it, in terms of internally. This is how I experience it internally. This is how and to experience it, say, externally. And one can be contemplating it externally, and contemplating either internally or externally. So that's a way of directing attention. Contemplating it or experiencing it in its arising, or as it arises, in its arising manifestation. This is how it arises. This is how it comes to be. In its aspect of ceasing, this is how it ends. This is what the ending is like. And in the aspect of its arising and ceasing. And so that's contemplating in terms of its that sense of either its arising, its ceasing, or its arising and ceasing, seeing it as a whole process, and that is a basis of insight already, because it's a contemplation of impermanence. It's a contemplation of its say uncertainty, of its change, and to be able to view it. It's like which is your kind of doorway into insight, into vipassana. Years ago, Ajahn Chah was it was his second overseas trip, where he went to England to part of his trip, and of course he had left Ajahn Sumedho and the other monks in England, and so 2 years later he went on the second trip to check up on them, see how they're doing, encourage them, and help support them. So, and then part of it was going and visiting other places of practice. He went to a Tibetan center in the north of England, and when in the evening, when he was meeting with their community, then somebody requested if he could give some teachings on vipassana, sort of. And which, say, in those days and even today, I mean, there's this sense of, okay, vipassana, some special meditation, some special insight practices that we do. And so Ajahn Chah sort of said, okay, well, maybe tomorrow. But I'd like all of you to bring a flower. And so that, so there's, okay, people, I'm not quite sure what he's up to, but they, so then they next day they come together and everybody had their flower and Ajahn Chah said, okay, well I'm going to teach vipassana today. I'll teach insight. And he said, everybody's got their flower. I want you to take this flower around with you, whatever you do, and say, like right now, it's morning time. They're fresh. Their color's nice. Texture's really nice. What's it going to be like through the day? And just watching change, watching impermanence, recognizing that this. And he said, this is what insight is. And this is what vipassana is insight into impermanence, change, uncertainty, and that recognition of that, and not getting either elated or depressed because of it. It's just what happens when you've got a flower and you go around and it's going to change and decay according to its nature. That's just what it is. So that was say Ajahn Chah's vipassana teaching of the day. It's a fundamental foundation embedded in the four foundations of mindfulness: attention to the arising aspect, ceasing aspect, arising and ceasing aspect. And then the last part of the refrain that comes up after each little section, not just each of the, as I say, the 6 different topics of the body, feeling, mind, 5 different topics that the say Dhammanupassana are on. It's the last part of the refrain is to establish mindfulness just to the extent that, say, if it's the breath or elements or whatever aspect of the body, that there is a body. It's that, like non-complication. And this is a really important aspect of insight. It's extremely important aspect of insight is that we don't complicate it. We use the insight or use the reflection as a means of seeing things in their true nature and allow, say, relinquishment and letting go to happen, but then not to complicate it, not to proliferate it, not to... And there's a term that the Buddha uses, atamayata, and that's it's not used that extensively through the suttas, but it's when the Buddha uses it, it's recognizable how much importance he places on it, and and in the in one of the discourses where the Buddha uses it, it's Majjhima 137, Salayatana Vibhanga Sutta, and it's like relying on this, one say, let's go of that, or one relying on this, one realizes that. And that aspect of atamiyata is like it's like your final aspect. And what it is literally it means, atamiyata means not made of that. And Bhikkhu Bodhi translates it as non-identification. Ajahn Jeff translates it as non-fashioning. Ajahn Buddhadasa translates it as a bit kind of archaic, maybe, and unconcoctability. Sort of, it's like it's a. But that you get the feeling of that, this is this non-fashioning, non-identification, this non-complication, just seeing it's like this, and that is your entry into emptiness. It's an entry into liberation. So that there's taking these mundane aspects of human existence, body, feeling, mind, objects of mind, and be through the application of mindfulness, and there's a clarity and a well-being that is established. But it also has say, embedded in the discourse this is the tools that take you to liberation. This is the tools that take you to awakening. So it's just learning how to use the tools, learning how to recognize how we're using it. And certainly this aspect of recognition of mindfulness in its application. It's not just some kind of very simple bare attention that somehow magically transferred there. No, there is effort. There is clear comprehension. There is this full establishing oneself in being possessed of mindfulness. There's a relinquishing of the likes and dislikes, the wanting, not wanting, habit of mind. That is a part. That is that sense of, that's how the Buddha consistently defines mindfulness. Atapi sampajana satima vinaya lokeya bichato manasa. That's the tools. These are the frameworks, the frames of reference. And this is that refrain is how we apply it, how we work with it, and where we want to be taking it. The possibility that we have of what it can accomplish within our heart. So that sense, non-fashioning. That's kind of a radical awakening of the heart. So anyway, that's an overview of 4 foundations of mindfulness. Offer that for reflection.